So welcome. Welcome to the fourth Sunday. More people coming in. This is the fourth Sunday interspiritual worship with Reverend Karen Lindquist, the very Reverend Karen Lindquist. The Right Reverend Karen Lindquist? I don't know. It seems like it needs something more. We are here at the Interfaith Community Sanctuary, live in the flesh and also live streaming. While we're here, now that we have gathered, we'd like to acknowledge that the land we are gathered on here in real life is the unceded land of the Duwamish tribe. And the Duwamish are still here as they were here before the colonizers came. And we're all here together now. And it's very good to be aware that this is the historical context of where we gather. And we are profoundly thankful for this space and for the privilege of being on this land, and just the incredible beauty of what surrounds us here. And we want to acknowledge that we are here in an unbroken stream of human habitation that goes back for tens of thousands of years. And for most of that time, the Duwamish people and their forebears were taking care of this land, and they continue to be here and to be connected and to be connected to us, so we need to be connected to them. And while we're talking about our forebears, let's invite them into this space. Let's invite our ancestors into this space. So or whatever space you are, because we're all connected in a place in our hearts that exists really beyond space and time. So let's feel ourselves sitting on the earth. From where we are sitting here right now, from this point, there's a cone of light that reaches into the past. Everything that happened in the past coming down to this point. And from this point, all of the potentials of the future unfold. So it's like a cone of light going in both directions, into the past and into the future. And we want to connect with all of our relations in both these realms. Because, as I said, this place in the heart where we gather is beyond space and time. So we invite everyone into this space, all of our ancestors, all of our teachers, all of those in the future who are, in a sense, the gravity of their lives is pulling the activity of our lives out of us and showing us the right direction. So let's be thankful for their guidance, and let's invite all of those relations into this space to share with us their blessing and their wisdom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chris, I don't think you have to stand there the whole time, so just do as you like. We have Chris helping us with our visual camera, so, but thank you so much.
You're not bothering her or anything.
No, but yes, thank you. Live streaming is new for us, and we're adjusting to all of this new technology that we're working with these days. Another part of our gathering in sacred space here at Interfaith Community Sanctuary is we like to honor the divine feminine. And so I invite you into prayer with me now for this offering to the divine feminine. And this is a prayer to the Hindu goddess Kali. O Mother, who is present everywhere, who is embodiment of universal Mother. O Mother, who is present everywhere, who is embodiment of power and energy. O Mother, who is present everywhere, who is embodiment of peace. I bow to thee, I bow to thee, I bow to thee. I also would like to invite us into a Namaste greeting, a greeting that we hold our hands together over our heart and we bow to one another. And our sentiment is, our intention is, we say, I bow to the place in you that is love, light, and joy. My soul recognizes your soul. We are the same. We are one. I honor the place in you that is the same as it is in me. So even if you're at home, please participate with us in the Namaste greeting. So I'm going to...
You're not
I don't have much to say, just Namaste. I'm first giving it to the Spirit, Namaste. And then giving it to those online with us, Namaste. And to one another. Namaste. Thank you.
So, I've been asked to say a few words about our 2022 spiritual discernment, which is meeting the Divine Mother in humanity. Right now, we're in the season of meeting the Divine Mother in humanity. And in particular, this month, we are talking about the end of patriarchy. What is patriarchy? Well, I think we'd all have a slightly different definition, but basically it's a name we're giving to where we've been for several thousand years, and we're moving into a new place. And the new place we are moving into is a reestablishment of balance. This is always the way that things work. When we moved into what you could call the age of patriarchy, that was a movement to establish balance as well. But we're done now. And, there's a lot of, you could take a lot of different viewpoints on this. We go through these changes every few thousand years, or at least we have so far. And it's apocalyptic. You could take a sort of the world is ending, everything is being destroyed, let's fight for whatever we've got attitude about it. Or you could welcome it in, or you could do a little bit of both, which is what most people do. I'm not entirely clear myself that that the things that I am reactive to are not the good things that are going to happen. I think things will look a lot different in 500 years, and we'll look back at this and our thinking will be completely different. But we're doing the best we can. And the end of patriarchy is it's not in the future. It's already happened. You know, it's already happened in your heart. It's already happened in your mind, or at least it's happening. It's like adulthood. You know, it's supposedly it finishes around 25, but a lot of us are still working on it. So it's going to be like that. And but basically, you know, that it's like the joke about the guy who jumps off the building and he's passing by somebody's window, and the guy inside says, "How's it going?" And the guy falling says, "Great so far." You know, it's the end of patriarchy is going to happen, and it's just like jumping off a roof. Basically, it's already happened. So celebrate now, beat the rush, and here we go.
So thank you for enlightening us about patriarchy.
Yeah, let me explain that to you.
Yeah, let me explain that, yeah. So one of the main things about the end of patriarchy is the idea that we will have this harmonious relationship with one another, genders and families and children, and it's how we treat each other and our relationships, and developing the ability to have deep, lasting, caring relationships with one another. And for today's service to look at that, the joy of all of that, I'm drawing on the Declaration Toward a Global Ethic. This is page 2 of that document. And it's talking here about where we are growing to. And this was created in the years before 1993, but this was finally in print in 1993 through the Parliament of World Religions. And our friend, Brother Wayne Teasdale, who was one of our mentors, was on this team. Also, it turns out that prior to 1993, there was a gathering in Costa Rica, and another friend of ours, Helen Vandeman, was part of that group that brought these ideas forward. And so it's a couple of paragraphs, but it helps us attune to where we're going and where we are, as he mentioned. We are already here. We declare we are interdependent. Each of us depends on the well-being of the whole, and so we have respect for the community of living beings, for people, animals, and plants, and for the preservation of earth, the water, air, and soil. We take individual responsibility for all we do. All our decisions, actions, and failures to act have consequences. We must treat others as we wish others to treat us. We make a commitment to respect life and dignity, individuality and diversity, so that every person is treated humanely, without exception. We must have patience and acceptance. We must be able to forgive, learning from the past, but never allowing ourselves to be enslaved by memories of hate. Opening our hearts to one another, we must sink our narrow differences for the cause of the world community, practicing a culture of solidarity and relatedness. We consider humankind our family. We must strive to be kind and generous. We must not live for ourselves alone, but should also serve others, never forgetting the children, the aged, the poor, the suffering, the disabled, the refugees, and the lonely. No person should ever be considered or treated as a second-class citizen, or be exploited in any way whatsoever. There should be equal partnership between men and women. We must not commit any kind of sexual immorality. We must put behind us all forms of domination or abuse. We commit ourselves to a culture of nonviolence, a culture of respect, justice, and peace. We shall not oppress. We shall not injure, torture, or kill other human beings, forsaking violence as a means of settling differences. We must strive for a just social and economic order in which everyone has an equal chance to reach full potential as a human being. We must speak and act truthfully and with compassion, dealing fairly with all and avoiding prejudice and hatred. We must not steal. We must move beyond the dominance of greed for power, prestige, money, and consumption to make a just and peaceful world. Earth cannot be changed for the better unless the consciousness of individuals is changed first. We pledge to increase our awareness by disciplining our minds, by meditation, by prayer, and by positive thinking. Without risk and a readiness to sacrifice, there can be no fundamental change in our situation. Therefore, we commit ourselves to this global ethic, to understanding one another, and to socially beneficial peace fostering and nature-friendly ways of life. We invite all people, whether religious or not, to do the same. So that was a heady piece of reading, and I appreciate your indulgence to allow that to be read, because the words we use are so important, and they affect a change in our environment, in our world. So when we're speaking of positive things, we really can, in fact, make shifts of energetic changes that are for our benefit. And not only to the benefit of us who heard this, but it sends vibrations into the world. Another thing that I've been working on recently is trauma and about recovering from trauma. And I'm so aware, as you are, I know, of all the people in the world that are suffering because of their conditions and from this domination and in treatment of others. And it's heartbreaking. And because of the heartbreaking aspect of that, I find that my emotions get deeply affected at unexpected times in the life, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes in a meditation, and many times in prayer, that my emotions like release and go out of control because of the pain and grief that I experience through witnessing, experiencing, and just learning, knowing about things that are happening in the world. And I've had enough experiences with this over the last few months especially, that obscure occasions of my life experience will come up, and I will re-experience the wound and feel the emotions about that, and allow it to come up. This was happening so often that I began to honor that and let it happen. And I also have been learning about near-death experiences that people have, and there's often this discussion of that people who are having a near-death experience have a life review. So I've been realizing that these obscure, unimportant, and important things that have come up in my life that trigger my emotions from the memory and things I could have done different are part of a life review. A life review not near the end of my life, but a life review as a deepening of my understanding of the compassion that we need to live with and the empathy that we need to live with on a daily basis. And I've come to understand, believe, and feel very deeply that the more we allow ourselves to feel these experiences, that this somehow has some blessing and benefit for the world. As I learn to look at these things and feel them deeply. You may have the experience that I've had, that I am afraid sometimes, or certainly used to be before this was happening to me, that, I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about that. I'll start crying and I'll never stop. And I think that that's a real possibility. At least that's what it feels like. And I do know that some people can pull up so many emotions that they actually can get stuck and lost and in the depth of emotions and not move forward. Today, however, I'd like to talk about this a little bit, and then we have some practices to share about how to move through these experiences. And I asked Michael if he would speak a little bit about the Sufi tradition, the tradition of Rumi, because there's a whole understanding that he will explain about how the human being has an experience of being here on earth with a knowingness that they've come from a source of a unity, of love. Is that an okay setup for you to?
I wasn't sure what my assignment was, actually.
Oh,
so that's interesting. Yes. Well, we had talked before about, in the Sufi tradition, there's a metaphor of the human being as an instrument being played by God. Actually, a flute, typically. And the Rumi's epic spiritual poem, the Masnavi, begins with this line, "Listen to the sound of the reed flute." And a reed flute is a hollow tube with a few openings on it, just like us. And the idea of spiritual perfection is that we become a clear instrument, an expressive instrument for the universe, for God to play, to breathe life into. That all of our personality corners and occluded spiritual spaces are just obstacles for the free movement of spirit. And we are not, we have a very materialistic viewpoint that we've become acculturated to, but we are not lifeless masses that are moved by life, really. Our bodies, our material substance, our presence here on earth are productions of spirit. The spirit within us is not a foreign thing that's coming in and obsessing us or something. When we move towards the source, and this visualization of ourselves as a sort of hollow instrument that God breathes through is one way of orienting ourselves. But we need to remember that it's not, there's no separation. This is where we come from. That breath is what creates our bodies. There's no boundary, really. It's just what our viewpoint is, what our way of experiencing it is, and we can shift that. We can shift that by taking a different viewpoint, and maybe a viewpoint that is more in tune with reality. Did that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. The poetry of Rumi's, as Michael mentioned, the first beginning of the large Mesnavi is this poem. There's many different translations, but this conveys in another form this concept called the Song of the Reed. Listen to the story of the reed as it laments the pain of separation. Since they have cut me from my reed bed, my wails bring tears to both woman and man. Those ripped away from their beloved know my song. Having been cut from the source, they long to return in celebrations. I laugh with those laughing, and in sadness I cry with those grieving. The divine secrets are not separate from my cries, but only those who are cooked in the fire of love will hear them. These secrets are for the heart, not for eyes or ears. It is fire, not wind, that makes me sing. If you don't have this fire, you might as well be dead. Oh, how can the uncooked know the majesty of the fire of love? If you meet the uncooked, don't sing. Don't preach. Instead, listen to my advice. Say goodbye and leave. So I asked that we speak about this a little bit because of what's coming next in our service here and in our ritual that we're going to share with you, is that this experience that I've had just spontaneously and organically and naturally is to have experience of my life go through a purging situation with me, and a crying out. And there's this thing, if you read the invite to the service, it talked about this form of vocalization called keening. So Michael was speaking about the reed, and this poetry reminds us that the sound of the neigh is a cry. So when we are pulling up experiences in our life that can be joyous, they can be upsetting, they can be grieving, they can be fearful, and we can cry for those who have gone away from us, who have died. And we're also can cry over being separated from the oneness that we know exists in the universe. So keening is a sort of an Irish tradition that's used currently for wailing when people pass away. But it comes up, I found, naturally, that I emote with sounds, not words, and just emotion. And I asked Michael if he would play the harmonium behind us, and I'm going to invite us to express sounds. And they don't have a purpose. They don't have a meaning necessarily, or that meaning is yours personally. And this will be a cacophony of noise. What's important is, like, I'm now talking to you about these deep emotional experiences I've had where I do this naturally, and I know this is a strained position, but I'm going to ask us to feel grounded with the earth and allow ourselves to just start to feel joy or grief, things that we want to change, things we want to improve, and we know we are responsible for helping the world heal, recover, improve. And we have emotions about that. I'm going to move the microphone away from my voice so while I make sounds, it doesn't overpower all the sounds. into this object as well. This earth will absorb your grief, your worry, and your love. Whatever you have, you can send to that. And this simple gesture benefits the entire world. And when you're ready, I invite you to drop your stone into the water with purification. And so now we would like to share with you more healing opportunities, and we'd like to remind us that water is such a divine feminine energy. And so we would like to have the water purify us and to flow through us the purity of healing that is possible. And we're going to bring a glass of water to you. And those who are online, please get a bit of water. And again, I invite us to use our breath into the water and then drink it as a healing element. We're going to move to yet another level of healing, which includes praising. And before we do that, I'd like to mention to you that many years ago, you probably know Gina Salal. She used to be a member of our community here, and she used to do workshops here. And I remember it was before we had our new furnace system, and it used to be so cold in here and for the gatherings, and it was hard for everyone. But one of the things we did at the beginning of our workshop when we were here, that she had us do that intonation with our voices as similar as we did, but we did ours for moving emotions forward as a blessing. And on that occasion, it was for loosening up our voices. And we probably did that wailing, crying, screaming, toning for 20 minutes. We went on and on and on. And I found in that occasion, I cried. That whole thing made me cry. So it's not surprising, like 20 years later, that I'm naturally having an experience in my world that I'm sharing with you today about emotions coming up, and they need to come up. We need to express these things. And the other thing that's so important about the work that we're doing here today is that it's our responsibility to help all the people in the world that are having terrible life experiences, having terrible trauma. That's why we're here. We are here to help one another. We help those we know. We also can help those we do not know, but we know who are suffering. And that's part of our work here today. So this next piece will be some praising that Michael will help guide us with, and this is working with air. So far we worked with earth, we worked with water, and now we work with air. And Michael has chosen one chant we've done in our community previously, a Tara chant.
So please join me in doing a chant. This is a green Tara chant. It's the kind of the basic Tara mantra. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha.
And those words are in your program.
Yes, if you have a program, if you've got the scorecard, they're in there. Or you could just listen and repeat. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. 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 Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha.
In the invitation for the service, I had included a quote from Nikita Gill, who is a poetess. And her words were, "We have calcium in our bones, iron in our veins, carbon in our souls, and nitrogen in our brains. 93% stardust, with souls made of flames. We are all just stars that have people names." So we've heard that before, that we are stardust. And it also reminds me the Woodstock song.
Oh,
We are stardust, we are golden. Which I don't remember the next lines in that, but
got to find our way back to the garden, I
got to
think.
find our way back to the garden. So today also, as our social, we're going to build a fire out in the parking lot, have a communal fire. And so I wanted to bring fire element in also, which we will do later as we're talking about things. But for now, I have these lovely glass beads. And, we're made of fire, they're forged in fire, and so I'm going to invite us to please come take one or two of these if you'd like, and allow this to be representative of all of the purification, the transformations, and the blessings that we have that we're creating through our gathering together. Just coming together in a community is a rare occasion these days. But here we are, and we're doing good work, and we're bringing healing into the world. We have a prayer now. This is a praise prayer to the Divine Mother. And if you'd say with me, praise be to the Divine Mother. Praise be to the Divine Mother, the inscrutable power of all things. Sorry. I think you only have to say, praise be to the Divine Mother, and I'll say the other words. But if
Okay.
we could do it all, it seems like it might get complicated. So sorry to interrupt. Praise be to the Divine Mother.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
The inscrutable power in all things. Praise be to the Divine Mother. The intelligence in all beings.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
The forgiveness in all things.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
The peacefulness in all things.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
The faithfulness in all things.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
The beauty in all things.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
The mercy in all things.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
The consciousness in all things.
Praise be to the Divine Mother.
So this is now the time in our service where we would do an invitation for sharing our wealth. And one of the things that at Interfaith Community Sanctuary that people probably do know that we're all volunteers here. And we began this process at this location. It was probably in 1996 that we began serving on the board, and then we've been working on it all these years, always as volunteers, always doing our best to bring interfaith experiences and education to the general public. And now, 20 years hence, being interfaith is kind of a thing. But when we were doing it before, it was kind of unusual. And we often would get people who would come and who would advise us about how this is a Christian building, Christian church, and has a history. Calling on our ancestors has a history here, and we should be honoring Christianity, honoring Jesus in every service we do. And in fact, we do honor Jesus. We do honor Christianity. We do honor many traditions. And so here we are now. We're all very sophisticated people who understand the importance of interfaith gatherings, and we've done well, I think. We've done well. The other thing, this is a time to share about upcoming gatherings. And those of you who are online, you can go to the website to make donations, right? And so upcoming gatherings, next Sunday we have a worship service on Memorial Day weekend that we want to honor our ancestors and honor those departed loved ones. And our idea is that we'll, in our sacred space here, create a place for people to bring items to build an altar about their loved ones. Also, we're thinking of having a potluck. And the potluck, one of the ideas behind honoring our ancestors and our loved ones who have gone before us, is that you would make something that your loved one enjoyed eating. My mother, for example, loved bread pudding, and so I might make bread pudding. And my father actually liked burgers, so I don't know if we're going to fry burgers or not, but these are different things we might do for the potluck afterwards. But one of the things we had in our mind about creating a memorial service on Memorial Day weekend is that we keep such busy lives, and personally we remember our loved ones, but communally it's very healing if we can have a group gathering where we are all honoring all those we love who have passed on. So that's what we're looking at next Sunday, and we hope to have some ritual around that. And during the week, we want to also share with you, please check our website, because we have Course in Miracles that gathers twice a month. We have Women's Sasiwis Medicine Circle, who comes once a week. We have a Mesnavi study group, which is the study of Rumi's writings. We have a Sitting in Silence gathering on Thursday evenings. And Jamal has his spiritual development classes that are open and available. And I'm sure there's more. Would somebody else like to share about an upcoming gathering?
I think you covered it.
Well, I think so. Things we haven't mentioned is that we also now have Mevlevi gatherings on Monday evenings twice a month, or every other week. And we're beginning to open that up.
The second and fourth Mondays of the month, we meet in this very room.
That's our plan. We're doing our best to make that happen. And we used to do that on a regular basis, and in another place, but we're here. We're glad to be here. There's also some things somebody may like to talk about, the repair of our fellowship hall downstairs. We've had rain flooding, and we're now in the process of repairing the rainwater runoff and also repairing the floor, not replacing it. We're completing the floor. Any more we want to say about that? Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Please take a microphone.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say that later this week, I believe, they're going to be doing further work, as Reverend Karen mentioned, and thank you very much for a lovely service, Reverend Karen and Michael, for joining in. As part of that, and as a precursor to that, to help bless the grounds and to the, it's been asked by a couple members of our community to bless the plants, and so that when they're disturbed, that they may continue to grow and flourish. And we're going to be blessing the grounds after this service as part of the bonfire. And also, that's sort of merging the earth and the water piece of the earlier service. In a couple of weeks, there is going to be another Guiding Council meeting on June 5th, and that's going to be happening 11:45, and I'll be sending out an announcement about that. Thank you.
I'd like to just share something that happened yesterday that I was honored to be a part of, and I was representing Interfaith Community Sanctuary in receiving this wonderful award called the Peace the Torchbearer Award, the Peace Run Torchbearer Award from the Sri Chinmoy people, devotees. We went down to a lovely, lovely place in Fremont that I bet many of you, I had never seen it before. It's a beautiful statue of Sri Chinmoy, elegant statue, very beautiful. It's way down on a little park where you just don't even know it's there. It's and they've purposefully kept it kind of hidden. They haven't put a spotlight on it or anything. It's a beautiful little park area, and when we got there were a number of people gathered who were receiving this honor throughout the Seattle area. And Sri Chinmoy was well known for his love of running and exercise and bodybuilding and poetry and music, and he was just a Renaissance man in a way. I mean, he just knew every aspect of human potential. And so his followers were awarding this, and his people were singing. So here's the fun, I have to tell you this story. The birds down there were incredible. Now this was 10 o'clock in the morning, which is a pretty quiet time for birds generally. The birds started singing loudly. When the Sri Chinmoy people started singing their song, the birds just joined in, and they never stopped the whole time. And I had to comment on it at one point, and the people were noticing it. It was, I mean, I live in Seattle. I'm always listening for birds. I don't think I've ever heard that many birds singing at 10 o'clock in the morning all at once. And that was what was happening, and I just found that so touching. And I do want to, bring this back to the community. This was really given to us in honor, particularly of the work we are doing in the Suraya Attar Medical Center in Bangladesh, because Sri Chinmoy himself was also, not because, but as a commentary, Sri Chinmoy himself was also Bangladeshi, and he and his people, are aware of the work we're doing. That we started with the girls' school and then the medical clinic, and they wanted to honor us in particular for that hard work and service that we're doing. And so I thought it would be nice if we could find some place to maybe place this. They were very, very kind and beautiful gathering, and very sharing beautiful stories. The people who came, who had been running in the run all over the world, and particularly all over this area. Now, the run wasn't actually yesterday. Well, it was yesterday in some parts of the world, but not in Seattle. But it goes on throughout the world, all throughout many different parts of the world and times of the month and year. And the people who had been in the run came back with some beautiful stories of their experiences. Especially in this area, they had been going around to schools in the Seattle area and in the surrounding peninsula area, and all the wonderful interactions they'd had with school children post-pandemic, getting together with groups of school children. And so they told some beautiful stories about their experiences. And it was a lovely afternoon. So I was honored to be a part of that.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you. You know, that's for people who haven't been there that live in Seattle, it really is a beautiful spot. There's this surprising statue of Sri Chinmoy there, and it's right down by the water. It's right under the Fremont Bridge, and as you said, there's a little kind of hidden park there, and it's a little gem that, yeah.
So we have a concluding prayer. Divine Mother, may the touch of thy love awaken within us the majestic desire to seek thee. In seeking thee, we will find thee. In finding thee, we will know thee. In knowing thee, we will love thee. In loving thee, we will give thy love to all. Divine Mother, may thy unconditional love blossom forth, embracing us all in thy glory. Amen. Thank you. That's it. But we're going to go out to the fire now, right? Okay, thank you. If you want to come join us, you sure can. Thank you. Okay.